Hello, my name is Karen Stangroom and welcome to Conquer Crochet, the channel for tips, tricks and techniques for conquering your crochet.
Merry Christmas!
So far in our Christmas dinner tree we have the Brussels sprouts, which are taken from the Kawaii Crochet book. And in last week's video I showed you how to make this ever so adorable carrot. And in this week's video we're going to make pigs in blankets. So for this tutorial I'm using 3 colours. These are all cotton yarns. I think there are 4, maybe a DK, judging by the label. That's by Schachenmeier. Not quite sure how you pronounce that. I will put a link in the description to the actual colours that I'm using. But going by the hook sizes that they're recommending on here, I'm thinking that they're probably not DK, but they're not far off a DK. So I have a brown for the main sausage, and then we have the cream and the pink for the bacon. We also have some toy stuffing, and we have 6mm toy eyes and the backings to go with them. I'm using a 3mm crochet hook because I want to try and keep it as tight as possible so we don't see the stuffing through. I have a stitch marker, entirely optional. If you think you're going to be okay with working in the spiral, then you'll be okay not to have a stitch marker, or you may just want to use a little bit of thread or whatever you have to hand to be your stitch marker, or you can just count, which would be fine. I have a pair of scissors to cut off my ends and a needle to sew in my ends, and I have a small amount of black, this is a double knit black, to do the mouth. You could just as easily do embroidery thread, or you also may want to do French knots for the eyes instead of the toy buttons, or you could actually, the toy eyes, or you could use buttons for your eyes. So I'm starting off with the brown. I'm going to make a magic ring. You can do this in whichever way you prefer. I will put a link in the descriptions below for a video I have on different ways of doing the magic ring, so you can find a way that suits you. So I've done my magic ring and I'm going to chain 1 just to give me some height. We're then going to work 5 double crochets. That's UK terminology. In US terminology that would be single crochet. And the 5 double crochets are going to go into the magic ring. So when we do that, we need to make sure we go underneath both parts, so that tail needs to be included, otherwise when you pull the tail it won't actually close up the ring. So I've gone through the ring, yarn over and pull it back through. Should have 2 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through 2. So that's 1 and 2, 3, 4 and 5. We're now going to pull the magic ring close, and for this bit we're not going to work in spirals, we're going to join up just to start off. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're going to slip stitch into that 5th stitch. I'm just stretching it a little bit because that first one can be really tricky to get into. Let's see if we can just wiggle it in. There we go. So I'm going to slip stitch to join those up. See if I can get it back through now. Come on. Now with cotton it's not very forgiving. There we go. And slip stitch. So it's a lot harder with cotton. With acrylics you'll be able to sort of stretch it a little bit, and it's a bit easier to do magic rings. Okay, and I'm going to chain 1. So we've got 5 stitches. We're now going to do 2 double crochets in each of those stitches, so that will leave us with 10 stitches. You may use your stitch marker here if you want to, but for this bit I think you should be okay. So we're going to double crochet in each, so 2 double crochets, so that's 1 and 2 in the first stitch, 3 and 4 in the second, 5 and 6 in the third, 7 and 8 in the 4th, and then 9, oops, there again, 9 and 10 in the 5th one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we're going to slip stitch into this stitch here. Remember, we chained 1 for the height, so that's the chain 1, so we don't want to go into that. So make sure you are counting. So we're going to slip stitch into this stitch here, and that's the end of round 2. Round 3 we're going to yarn over, and we're going to do 2 double crochets in the next stitch. So 1 and 2, and then we're going to do 1 double crochet in the next stitch, and that's the first repeat pattern. So that's 1, and there'll be 5 of these because we have 10 stitches. So 1 double crochet, 2 in the same stitch, and then 1 in the next stitch. 2 double crochets, 1, 2, and 1 in the next stitch. 2 double crochets, 1, 2, and 1 in the next stitch, and then the last repeat, 2 double crochets, 1, 2, and 1 in the next stitch. And what we're doing here is just increasing each time we go round. So we should have 15 stitches in this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Remember, that was our chain 1, and we're going to slip stitch to join. So what we have now is sort of the top of the sausage part. If you want to make your sausage slightly smaller, leave out that 3rd round that we've just done and just go with the 10 that we have, and then make the body slightly less long. So the next bit now, we're going to be working down the main body part of the sausage. So we need to be working in spirals, and this is where you may want to use your stitch marker because it can get confusing. So we are going to work from row 4 to row 25 using double crochet in each stitch. So that's 1. Grab my stitch marker, pop it over that stitch, and then I don't have to worry about going and counting as I go around. So this is row 4. We're just doing 1 double crochet in each stitch all the way round from row 4 to row 25. So you may want to use a row counter. You may want to just have a piece of paper at the side to remind you which row you're on. It is very easy to get distracted by something on a television or the telephone ringing, or somebody just asked you a question and you've lost count, and the last thing you want to do is have to unpick everything, because frankly at this time of year we've got so much to do. We don't want to have to start again with our crochet projects. So just coming up to the end of row 4, and I'm going to make a little note of that, and I'm going to write that down. I'm going to take my stitch marker out, and I'm going to start round 5. So I do 1 stitch, put my stitch marker in just to remind me where we are, and then I'm going to work round 5. So we're doing 1 double crochet in each stitch all the way round from rows 5 from now on up to 25. But when you get to round 14, unpause the video, because that's when I'm going to show you how we're going to put his face on. So pause the video now till you get to round 14. So I've just come to the end of round 14. I'm just going to pull my yarn quite a long way just so that it doesn't unravel, and I'm going to take out my stitch marker. So the first thing I want to do is to get rid of this little tail from our start. I might just give it one little tug just to make sure that that is closed, and I'm going to tuck it back inside because at the moment he's just getting in the way. Okay, so we're going to be adding our toy eyes now, and we're going to add those to the 8th row down. So the circle we started with is row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So between rows 8 and 9, I'm just going to pop in his eye and push it through. And I'm not going to put the back on just yet till I'm happy with both of his eyes. So there's one, and then I'm going to leave 2 stitch gaps there. I don't know if you can see that there. So 1, 2, and I'm going to go into the 3rd one. Let's just pop that one in. It's quite a tight space that we're working in. So when you're happy with the eyes, let me have a look at that one. Am I happy? Maybe I should put them one closer together. So you can have a play around and see where you'd like the eye to be. So I've had 2 gaps in mine. Maybe I'm going to try it with 1 now and see if that's slightly better. I think I'll stick with the 3. Right. So go back to the 3. Okay, when I'm happy with his eyes, I'm just going to try and turn him inside out. Now, as I said, we're working in quite a tight space there. So we have our backs of our eyes there. So I'm going to take the toy eye backs and just push those on as best we can. And the second one. There you go. Did I get a clunk with that one? Yes, there it is. Okay, so his eyes are on. Next thing to do is his mouth. So I'm going to take a small amount of black yarn or embroidery thread, and I'm going to make a slip knot. I'm just going to leave that slip knot there, join my yarn to the needle at the other end, and then again turning it inside out somewhere between the 2 eyes. You just want to find a stitch that won't be seen from the front, that you can just take your yarn needle under the stitch, pull it through till you get to your slip knot, take your needle through the loop of that slip knot and pull it through. And then when you pull the tail and the working yarn, you'll have a really decent knot there, tying it off. Okay, so I'm going to go from here in the V to here and then up to here. So I'm going to come out of this stitch and diagonally to the next row down over 1 stitch. And that gives us the first part of the V. Now I don't want to come back out the same stitch because that stitch will come undone, so I'm going to go and come out through here now. And then I can go back into the same stitch where the bottom of the other half of the V is. So you've just got a nice little V mouth, just gives them a nice little friendly look. Turning it back inside out, going to do a similar thing to what we did at the beginning. We're going to go underneath a stitch that won't be seen from the front and then I'm going to try and get that tail out. There we go. Go back into that stitch we just made, and then I'm going to make a knot. Trying not to catch the tails. There we go. Obviously we don't need to weave it in, but I am going to cut the ends off because the fabric here will stretch slightly when you put the stuffing in, and I don't want to see too much black underneath. So at this point we can start putting a little bit of stuffing into the top of his head. You can wait till the end, but you may struggle to get past the eyes if you wait too long. So I'm just going to take little bits of the stuffing. Now I'm using polyfiber stuffing. You can use anything you like really to stuff your toys. Polyfiber is better, particularly if you want to wash, because it is washable. But these are Christmas decorations. They're not going to be used by children, and they're not going to get too dirty when they're only out for, say, a month or so every year. So don't worry too much if you wanted to fill it in with offcuts of yarn. I often keep the little scrap bits to fill in my amigurumi if it's something that I'm just making for me. Also, if you wanted to make this for children, I would suggest not using toy eyes and to do a couple of French knots for the eyes, particularly if it's for a younger child. Okay, so I'm happy with where I am now. So I'm going to start my next round. Try not to lose that loop. So my next round is going to be round 15. So I make my first stitch, pop my stitch marker back in, go on, you can do it, and I'm going to do 1 double crochet, being careful not to catch the fibres of the stuffing. So 1 double crochet in each stitch all the way round, rounds 15 up to round 25. So do those rounds now, pause the video, and I will meet you back at the end of round 25. In this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps our channel to be seen, and also let me know in the comments below which Christmas patterns you've enjoyed so far and which ones you'd maybe like to see in future episodes. So I've just come to the end of round 25. I'm just going to pull my loop a little bit so I don't lose it. And I'm going to take my stitch marker out and pop that to one side. At this point I'm going to start filling in a little bit more of the sausage. Just pop that in there. And if you do it in little bits rather than just shoving a whole wodge in, you'll be able to sort of manipulate it a little bit more to the way you want, rather than having one sort of solid lump inside. So little bits at a time is perfect for this sort of project. Okay, I might add a little bit more in there. There we go. And I can obviously add some more in just before we close off. So round 26, we're basically going to do the inverse of what we did at the top. So we're going to start off by doing a double crochet 2 together, and I'm only going to go through the front loops. So I'm going to go through the front loop, yarn over, pull through the next front loop, yarn over, pull through. I've got 3 loops on my hook, yarn together and pull through all 3, and then going to do 1 double crochet. So this is the reverse of doing 2 double crochets in the first stitch, then 1 double crochet. Okay, Now I'm just going to pop my stitch marker in so I know where I've been. So that's going to go in the double crochet 2 together, oops, which is the first stitch that I made. Okay, then double crochet 2 together, so through the front loops, pull the yarn through the front loop, pull the yarn through, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 3. And then double crochet in the next stitch, trying not to catch the poly fibre as you're doing it. Double crochet 2 together, and then double crochet in the next stitch. Double crochet 2 together, double crochet in the next stitch, and then last one, double crochet 2 together, and double crochet in the next stitch. So let's just check how many stitches we have. So that's going into there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so now we're going to do 4 double crochets 2 together. So go into the next stitch. I'm not going to use my stitch marker here. You can if you want to. So that's 1, and 2, 3, and 4, and then we're going to skip the next stitch and slip stitch into the last one. So skip a stitch, slip stitch, it just gives us a slightly less bulky end. Now we still have one more round left to do, but we're going to fasten off here and we're going to leave a long tail. And pull that out. Then using our darning needle or our yarn needle, going to thread my yarn on, and I'm going to weave in and out of these stitches so that we can then close it up properly. And don't worry if it's a little bit pointy on the ends, that's absolutely fine. You could have put some extra polyfill in if you wanted to. I'm just going to spread out the polyfill that's already in there to fill in the gaps. Okay, and then going to find a stitch to go through, and I'm going to create a knot. And I like to double knot, so I'm going to do a second one. And then taking the yarn needle, push it into, very close to where you've done that knot, into the centre of your sausage, and then come out the back. That way then when we cut off our yarn, our thread is completely hidden. I'm going to keep that little bit because I'm going to use that bit right at the very end. So let's get on to making the bacon. So to make the bacon I'm using cream and a pink. You could use a white if you wanted to. I just felt the white was a little bit too stark and I quite like the cream with it. So I'm going to start off with the pink. And we're going to make a slip knot. You can do your slip knot in whichever way you prefer. And we're going to chain 25. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, and I'm still using my 3mm crochet hook in case you're wondering. Okay, we're now going to do a double crochet in the second chain from the hook, so we don't count the one on the hook, so 1, 2, so I'm going to insert into that chain, yarn over, pull through, 2 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through the 2, and we're going to double crochet all the way back down this row. So pause the video now whilst you chain your 25 and you double crochet into each of the stitches, coming back down your chain, starting from the second chain and the hook. So for the next row I'm going to be using cream, and I'm going to make a slip knot. Again, you can do this whichever way you prefer. I'm going to pick up my piece. Now make sure you're going through the double crochets and not through the chains. Okay, it's a little bit trickier to go through the chains. So I'm going to insert my hook into the last double crochet I made, put my slip knot onto my hook, pull that loop through and yarn over and pull through just to secure it. So I'm going to take my pink and my cream tails, and I'm going to be hiding those as I do my stitches because I hate sewing in ends. So this is one way you can get rid of those. Okay, going into the same stitch with a double crochet, and I'm going over my 2 tails as well, yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through both the loops. Into the next stitch, and again I've got my 2 tails that I'm carrying with me, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. And we're going to work in the same way all the way down our work with a double crochet in each of those stitches from the previous round, hiding your tails if you want to, and when you've got so many stitches down you can just cut off those tails, being very careful not to cut your working thread. And work a double crochet all the way down that pink row, and I will join you at the end of the row. So I've just finished my cream row. Now I'm going to reattach the pink. If you wanted to, you could carry your yarn up the side of your work. I prefer just to hide it in with my stitches. So I'm inserting into that last cream stitch that we made, put my slip knot on, pull the loop through, yarn over to secure, take my tails, again I'm hiding them, and I'm going to do a double crochet in the same stitch that I attached my slip knot to. And now I can cut that little tail off because that's pretty hidden now. And actually it's quite secure sewing or crocheting over your tails. They very rarely will come out. So we continue double crocheting all the way down our row. And I had considered just doing stripes, doing 1 row of each, but what I felt then was it looked a little bit sort of candy caney and not quite so bacony. Is bacony a word? It is now. So when we get to the end of this row, we're not going to fasten off our work. We're going to do a second row in the pink, just to give that sort of variety of width to the stripes so they're not too uniform. So I'm just coming up to the end of that row there. 2 more stitches to go, that's 1 and 2. and this time instead of fastening off I'm going to chain 1 and turn. Chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch, so I'm going into that first double crochet of the next row, and I'm going to work all the way along this row. So pause the video now whilst you complete the 2 rows of pink, and I will see you at the end of the pink row. I've done my last stitch of my pink row. I'm going to yarn over and fasten off. Turn my work over and reattach the cream. So we do that as we did before by making a slip knot. What's going on with that slip knot? There we go. Now we're going to insert into the last double crochet we made with our hook, put our slip knot back on the hook and pull that loop through, yarn over to secure. Again, I'm hiding my threads, so double crochet in that first stitch and then double crochet in each of those stitches all the way down your row, and this is the last row of our bacon. You can make this wider if you want to. You can make it smaller, you can make it shorter in length. I just quite liked this length here where it looks like he's got a little towel wrapped around him as he's getting out of the bath. So pause the video now whilst you crochet down to the end of your row. Do not fasten off though, I will join you at the end of this row. Okay, so I've done my last stitch of cream. I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to leave a long tail, and this is the tail we're going to use to sew in, or sew on rather, our bacon onto our sausage. I can move those aside. I'm going to weave away the pink tail from that chain that we did right at the beginning. Just so it's not visible. And I'm just going to do it twice. It's a decoration, it's not a toy. It won't be played with. Ordinarily I would do 3 weaves, but 2 will suffice for what we're doing today. Okay, so I'm going to insert my yarn on, my yarn to my yarn needle, and I'm going to bring my sausage over. So I'm going to, what I did with this one was I started just before his eye on the left as I'm looking at it, and then brought it down as a diagonal and around him. So I think I might do the same again, making sure I've got my crochet the right way round. So the right side is the side that you can see quite clearly both of these stitches for the double crochet. If you turn that over you can't see those stitches as clearly. So I'm going here and I'm going to wrap it around, and you can leave a little gap in between if you want to make it obvious, or you could join it up, entirely up to you. And decide which angle you're happy with. So I think I'm happy with that one. I'm just going to hold it in place, and I'm going to go into the cream, come out the other side, so right the way through the sausage and come out through the cream on the other side, and again into the cream and then out through the cream at the top of the next round, if you like, so the bit that's at the bottom, into the cream, and I'm going to go through the back this time, come out through the cream in the middle of the bacon, and by going through the cream each time you're not going to be able to see those stitches where you're sewing. So back into the cream, and we want to fasten off this bit here. So I'm going to come through there and then back through the cream, and just keep weaving through until you're happy that it's nice and secure. Making sure I go through the cream there. So there's everything. So I've got a little bit that's flappy there, so I'm going to come back through that one there. So come through the cream, through the square stitch, and there we go. And that seems quite secure. Doesn't matter if it's a little bit loose. If you want to keep going through so it's really tight, you can. Entirely up to you. So I'm at the back of the sausage now, and I'm just going to fasten off. So I'm going to go through a loop, and then weave that through. And as I say, I like doing double knots. I don't want things to fall apart, otherwise you have to start fixing them. And then through there, through the sausage, come out through the cream somewhere, just in case. Take your yarn needle out and cut off that end, and there he has his bacon attached. So the last thing to do if you're wanting to hang is to put the hanging loop on. So I had that little bit of spare at the end, so I'm going to do what I did before, and I'm going to make a slip knot, and then going to insert my yarn into the yarn needle, and where you have your circle at the top here, think about where you want your loop to go. So I want it to go from this side over there. So pull my yarn through, go through the loop on your yarn needle and the slip knot, and tighten it up. Decide how long you want your loop to be and hold that in place, and don't pull on it too hard. Go to the other side where your loop's going to be, go through a stitch, get that tail through, go back through the loop, don't pull too hard because this is still part of this loop here, unless you want to make it shorter, in which case you can. And then I'm going to just fasten off with a knot, whoops, through the loop. There we go. And then just take your threads back through the sausage so that we can hide those and tie them off. So they are tied off. Cut them off, I mean. That's one, and the final one goes through there. And by hiding them in the stuffing, they're very unlikely to come out again. And there you have your little sausage wrapped in bacon, or your pig in your blanket. I really hope you've enjoyed today's tutorial. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you get notified every time a video goes live, and you won't miss out on any of my Christmas patterns. Everything I've talked about today will be linked in the descriptions below, and there are 2 other videos on screen now to help you on your crochet journey. I will see you over there. Thank you so much for joining me on this one, and happy Christmas hooking!